What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here with you guys. Day 7 of Pittsburgh Steelers training camp is now in the books. The Steelers are officially going to practice in about 26-ish hours as I am recording this. Friday Night Lights will be out there. That'll be a great a day. To me, this is my favorite practice of the year. It is just a little bit different. It feels a little different, feels a little bigger. That'll be physical. But let's talk about today's practice because today's practice was certainly interesting as well. Non-pads, but it's about as chippy as you're going to see a non-padded practice. The Steelers really ended up um, going out there and kind of having this back and forth jawing match between some of the offensive weapons and then some of the defensive backfield. Um, and so the Steelers today showcased a bit of edge that I think they maybe haven't had as a team in a good while. I think this team has a lot of edge to it. Now, I do think that is going to be something that's going to become a kind of trait of theirs. Jalen Ramsey is a guy that likes to get stuff going. He was in Calvin Austin's ear all day today. Chuck Clark and DK Metcalf went at it, and they were going back and forth. And Jonnu Smith and Juan Thornhill had this going back and forth. These scuffles, these kind of fights, they never escalate into anything that derails practice. So it's not like it's out of bounds, it's unsportsmanlike. It is a competitive battle back and forth, and they prove it on the field. And so the Steelers really, I think, are building some camaraderie here. They're building something that at least helps the locker room mesh. And so everything I've heard about, Aaron and Jalen and those guys has been very positive. Ramsey is apparently incredible behind the scenes. People don't even see what he does in the classroom and what he does when the film room is up open and different things like that. Apparently, he is someone that has really made an impact there. He's helping young guys. So Jalen Ramsey definitely building that, and Rodgers has been open and willing and engaging to others. So there are some positives here about the locker room fit. The on-field fit, I think, is still coming together for the offense. I think the defense, we're seeing it. This was the offense's best day. It was without pads, but it was better to see them just start to click on things. It wasn't like, this was like the offense having a better day just because the pads were off. The offense naturally is probably going to look a little bit better with out pads. You can't be as physical, et cetera, et cetera. We know these tropes, we know these things. It all makes sense. But that's not necessarily why they looked better today. To me, they looked a lot better today because they were naturally just kind of getting after it in a way that helped build chemistry. And I think that's been the big thing for the Steelers so far. Training camp has been Rodgers and Metcalf, maybe not fully going. Rodgers and Roman Wilson not fully there. Jonnu Smith not fully there. Like all of this kept popping up. And so I do think now that you kind of see it, there is more there. And the more time that has passed, there is a little bit more comfortability between one another. And that's what I thought. Even yesterday when we were watching them, they were just off, the mid screen that they missed John Smith on, just didn't run the right route. The how you didn't run this route flat enough. Like different details, the body language they haven't fully picked up on. When you have great chemistry, and I think if Aaron Rodgers with guys like Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Alan Lazard, just over his career, Devontae Adams, of course, at the top of that list. There's like a sixth sense almost where you just kind of know what's going to happen, and you kind of know where he's going to go, and you're able to essentially feed off that. And so it's working up to a level where you have collective understanding of how Rodgers likes things and how you are supposed to run it in the context of his favorability against certain coverages and on certain routes. So all of that's going to be a big hurdle for this offense, but it's something they're really working at. I think we're starting to see some signs of them at least getting there. It's not like crazy, right? It's not like this offense suddenly has fixed everything. I still think wide receiver 2 is an issue. And even though Roman Wilson had a good day today, You get me a beautiful catch over Joey Porter Jr. I just haven't been necessarily impressed by how Roman Wilson's outside wide receiver reps have gone. It hasn't been consistent separation. He's been eaten up by press a little bit. I do think he's got great hands. He doesn't drop the football like ever. He does have, I think, good quicks and route running in terms of winning from the slot when he can get free and use his explosives. Like when he's in the slot, he's productive. He makes catch after catch after catch from the slot. When he's outside, I think he runs into some other areas of his game that are still a little bit in development. That doesn't mean he can't play outside a little bit, but I don't buy him fully as the full-time wide receiver too. But the Steelers are rolling the ball out there and saying, "Hey, prove us wrong, prove us that you can be that." And so he has this chance to do that. And so does Robert Woods, who is also getting a chance and saying, "Hey, you're a vet, but let's see how much you have left." And so they're giving these guys opportunities to prove what they can do. This defense looks cohesive. They look violent. They look like they have an edge. This offense looks like a melting pot of ideas that is still trying to figure out what they are and what they want to be. It's a different level, it's a different stage of development for each side of the coin, which I think is fun to say because I do think that when you look at this offense, it's just Arthur Smith kind of tinkering with some of his ideas and trying to change some of them. Now they are going back to some of the old offensive ways that Arthur Smith is used to. For example, they are running a lot more wide zone this year. But 0-4 personnel, which means zero running backs, four tight ends, one wide receiver, they had Jonnu Smith in the backfield on one play. I mean, that's just, they're just trying to get him touches because Jonnu Smith is a guy that is a manufactured touch getter. Like that's what he is. So you're manufacturing him touches. You're getting DK open on slants. You're getting DK open on nine routes. Like you're getting DK open on routes that he's really good at. So they're kind of tinkering the scheme while trying to figure out what Rodgers likes, while also trying to fit it into the vision of Arthur Smith. So all of that is working in conjunction with one another. I'll tell you what, in terms of sleepers that people have talked about, I haven't really been impressed by a lot of sleepers. DJ Thomas Jones got hurt. Sebastian Castro, I think, has been a little bit of a roller coaster. I'll tell you who has been good, though. I think Rock Taylor, man, has really had a really good last few days. And in pads, he was making plays. Today, he had a big 75-yard touchdown. Yesterday, he had a big catch along the sideline. And then he had another really nice toe tapping grab on a back shoulder fade today. He's making plays out there. Rock Taylor is built just like a running back almost in some ways. He's built like a yak machine. He's got that kind of thick lower half that makes it tough for him to tackle. And so the Steelers in general um, look solid, man. Um, they are kind of coming into it as a team. I think there's some cohesion here, but they still have question marks for me. In terms of figuring everything out, putting things together. What is the vision offensively, and what's the ceiling of it? But I do think there are at least positives to take away from practice days like today, where you're starting to see the cohesion build. And so my philosophy towards viewing the Steelers right now is lots of talent. I think probably the most talented team they've had since 2020, 2019. Let's see how the pieces fit together. And I think the Steelers are even figuring that out offensively. I think defensively they have this vision. And up front today, they were a little shorthanded because they had three defensive tackles down, but it caused them to kind of bring out a few interesting looks. For example, they had their three outside linebacker package out today where Jack Sawyer moved inside and was a three technique. We've seen Herbig, we've seen Highsmith, and we've seen Watt do it. Now Sawyer does it. We've seen them do double A gap mug looks where they're going to send the inside linebackers, or maybe they won't, or maybe they'll send one and stunt a guy and overload blitz to one side. And they're doing different things up front. And defensively in the back end, they are mixing it up coverage wise. They are playing some bits of quarters, some cover two, a little. Obviously, their bread and butter is still single high stuff. They're going to play cover three. They're going to play cover one. They're going to put in a lot of Tampa two different principles as well. And you can kind of play cover three in certain ways that fits into principles that Mike Tomlin had even coming out as a defensive coordinator, and that's what they've done specifically on third downs. And I do think they are disguising things a little differently. And the DBs are weapons at the line of scrimmage. Guys like Deshaun Elliott and Jalen Ramsey, Chuck Clark. are guys that can blitz and have been utilized as such in some practice settings. And so I think defensively, there's a real cohesive vision on how to put this together. I think offensively, it's experimenting. I think Aaron Rodgers is experimenting, kind of figuring out what he has still left in the tank and what he can still do and what these receivers can do and what this tight end can do and how big is his catch race? All these things that go into a play, I think they're just experimenting more. So this, it's not surprising to me that the defense has won most of these days. The offense has been a little sharper in recent days. Not yesterday though. I thought it was a step back for them. And then I thought today was a big step forward just in terms of the basics getting down, and looking like a cohesive offense together. So I think that's a positive for the Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers looked sharp today, probably his sharpest day here, in terms of just accuracy. He threw one up the seam in 7-on-7 that was an absolute dot. It just went off the fingertips of Brandon Johnson. And I was like, there's one of those wow throws he still has. And the arm has plenty of juice left. So there's still positives there in Rodgers' game, even though he's not, his four-time MVP self. He's not that top of the league guy anymore. I think this can still be a productive quarterback if you build the right things around him. The offensive line is going to be the big question, obviously, without pads. Not much to say about the run game or the pass pro because it's just hard to kind of jump into that and understand kind of what they're doing because these O linemen are not going to do a lot without pads on. And so when the pads come on tomorrow for the second pad practice at Friday Night Lights, we're going to see a lot more of that. And that will be a fun thing to examine. And I will talk about that tomorrow as well when I am back here. All right, folks, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell for more. Wanted to cover kind of a bigger picture thing today and kind of how the offense is developing versus how the defense is developing, their visions, and why, even though I am obviously positive in a lot of these, there are still questions and concerns that can be arisen in this team's chemistry and in this team's build. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Follow me, Farabaugh FB on Twitter. Check out stuffpenlive.com/Steelers.